Let's get right in and talk about the San Diego Chargers. You know, the San Diego Chargers team has been a team that's been taking bullet after bullet. You know, the story of this team this entire year is ACL tears, ACL injuries. We have this team that cannot even close out a game. And this has been the biggest thing for the San Diego Chargers dating back to last year. I am not a fan of John Pagano's defense. For a lot of people who do know a lot about me, I am a diehard Chargers fan. And when I sit here and I watch the Chargers play week in and week out, there has been a lot of calls that has just been, you know, poorly played. Pagano likes to make these outrageous, you know, plays on defense. And this week, you know, in particular, Chargers were getting blown in coverage. Brandon Flowers was being blown in coverage. It was just a complete field day for the Indianapolis Colts. The Chargers were able to, you know, keep it moderate, but they were still giving up huge plays, you know, including, you know, the game-winning touchdown. I think it was like 65 yards to T.Y. Hilton to officially close out the game. And that was what ultimately killed the San Diego Chargers, is that Pagano, the entire game, was blitzing Andrew Luck. And, you know, in order to get Andrew Luck off his game, you would have to blitz him. And the San Diego Chargers are a team that went out there and they completely blitzed them. This defense was completely off their A game, and you know, I'm not going to sit here and blame the entire defense. You got to give the offense a lot of you know criticism as well, because when you look at Phillip Rivers' play, he coughed so many plays. He coughed up and, you know, underthrew Melvin Gordon, you know, overthrew Travis Benjamin. It was just a complete off game for the San Diego Chargers offense and defense, or the team as a general whole. Josh Lambo missing the extra point. It was a complete downfall. But one of the biggest things is the San Diego Chargers' depth. As today it was announced, or it was determined, that Manti Teo is the latest Charger to go down with injury. Now, on top of that, this game also saw the injury of Brandon Flowers. He took a nasty, I think I want to say it was a knee to the head on an inverted play. And that was later in the fourth quarter. But the biggest story is right now, I think Brandon Flowers will be fine. He walked off the field on his own power. He's probably going to end up becoming questionable throughout the week. That's basically how it is when a big-time injury like that was to go down. But Manti Teo, that is the biggest thing here. Manti Teo in a contract year with the Chargers has to make a statement this year. That's the biggest thing for Manti Teo this year. Make the statement. He's leading the team in tackles, and he was making that statement this year until he went down with injury early in the first quarter, and it's going to cost him. I think with the way that, you know, he went down, he was screaming in agony. He was even emotional with the Achilles injury. It has to be a sign that he either, you know, ruptured his Achilles tendon or he tore his Achilles. I don't know if those are the same thing, whatever the case may be. I'm not a medical, you know, expert or anything like that, but that does not sound good for the Chargers. You know, a lot of fans are speculating it's either one of the two, and even if you lose, you know, even if it's one of the two, he's still expected to be out for the rest of the year. I know the San Diego Chargers did a great job in the NFL draft last year drafting linebackers, but losing out on your leading tackle or your leading tackler on defense, that's a big hole to fill. Who's going to be that guy to really step up? I know Joshua Perry, a guy who I spoke very highly for the better half of, I think, about 4.5 weeks, dating back to even week 1 of the preseason. I thought that Joshua Perry could be a guy who's very underrated, very under the radar in San Diego. He was inactive against Indianapolis, but there's just something about Joshua Perry that I think that he's going to come onto the field at some point when he gets the time. He has to earn it, but he has to get the time. I think Jatavis Brown, the guy who we got out of Akron, has been out playing and has really, you know, stepped up in a huge way for this Chargers team, and I think that he's likely going to end up becoming the starter come next week in Week 4 against New Orleans. We're back home against New Orleans. We'll be welcoming back Drew Brees, and I think the Chargers should go into the game next week and, you know, expect to not have Manti Teo. We have to have Joey Bosa back. It's just this entire San Diego Chargers team isn't just, you know, it's in a downward spiral right now. This team needs to finish out games, and they got to finish out games in order to win, because they're back in last place. They're 1-2. Kansas City picked up the win against the Jets. The Raiders picked up a victory over The Raiders picked the victory over the Titans, and now the Broncos are undefeated. Surprisingly, they're undefeated. A lot of people were not giving this team a chance, during the preseason because of quarterback play, and Trevor Siemian's really stepping up in a big way. They're 3-0. They defeated the Bengals easily. So, the Chargers are sitting at 1-2. They're in last place in the division. This schedule has been, in a bit of a Chargers' favor. They're getting a couple of easy opponents to start off the year. Well, not really much of an easy opponent. I think Kansas City is a really, tough team to play, week in and week out. But, they were able to secure the victory against Jacksonville. Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers has, played Indianapolis a number of times in his career, and, they got it this week. Andrew Luck finally picks up his first victory against the San Diego Chargers, and the Chargers now sit without Manti Teo, probably without Brandon Flowers, and we're sitting at 1-2 in last place in the AFC West.